It's not about replacing people. It's about embracing the tech that is going to help to support the process. And I think that's what's key, is that at no point are we saying this is going to replace a creative. What we're saying is that it can facilitate and help support that process to deliver a better result, so it frees you up to do more.
Today, my guest is Chad. Chad is Chief Revenue Officer at Rhapsody. Chad, welcome to my podcast. Thank you very much for joining me today. Please introduce yourself, introduce Rhapsody, and tell us what you guys do.
Yeah, so I'm Chad. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for Rhapsody. Our website is rhapsodymedia.com across all socials. We are a comprehensive full 360 creative agency. And so anything to do with marketing, social campaigns, creative outreach programs, marketing strategy, photography, videography, pretty much we cover it all. But one of the key areas that we are finding huge traction in is where we have an abundance of experience, and we're very fortunate to have abundance of experience, is in AI content generation. And I think that is a huge area that we're seeing traction in, and we are fortunate enough to be ahead of the curve in that space. So yeah, but essentially we are a full 360 creative agency. We've been in existence for more than 40 years in different guises and different names, and our heritage really sits in the print world. So we are part of the Worsted Group, who are the largest independent printers in Europe. They're our mothership, they're our mother company, and we're a subsidiary of Worsted. And for what we've found is that as part of being a creative agency, it ties nicely and has clear synergies within sort of the pre-press print world. Yeah, so our heritage really sits in sort of that sort of retouching, pagination, photography, sort of dam systems, all that sort of stuff. And the offshoot of that is Rhapsody, which is a full 360 creative agency that specializes in all the other areas of being part of a creative process.
Amazing. Thank you for the introduction. I absolutely love what you guys do. Obviously 40 years, so how you deliver this, it's probably changed many times as a company, and what is actually required.
I wasn't in the company. By the way, I wasn't in the company
Absolutely.
40 years ago, right? Let's just be clear.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm talking, in terms of a company, and the company survived 40 years, that probably have to pivot many times, right? Digital ads were not even around, so it's more completely different. Now it's all started being all about video and digital content, right? And now it's AI and AI content, which would like to break down a little bit more with you. Okay, so when you talk about Gen AI content, what are we talking? We're talking written content, videos, we're talking images. What is in the highest demand right now?
All of the above, if I'm being honest. But I think one of the key areas that we've seen particular interest in is in that sort of content generation, so that static imagery, short form, long form video, and in fairness, the AI content creation has come on leaps and bounds in the last 12-18 months. We've seen it just go from accelerate exponentially over the last sort of 18 months. But we were quite fortunate because our CEO, Andy Bergs, saw that coming, and we invested strategically about 2 years ago into our labs team, Rhapsody Labs, and they are wholly dedicated in developing cutting edge AI tech, making sure that we're using the best products and testing it to essentially benefit our clients. And what that does is that really sort of makes us sort of a forward-thinking, innovative leader in that space. And, but at the center of everything, it's all about storytelling, right? And making sure that we're cohesive and that we're in line with the customer's sort of requirements and brand. But yeah, we see attraction mostly because there is, first of all, it's unbelievably realistic now. I think gone are the days where, it still happens, but gone are the days where you create an image and it's, a person's got 7 fingers rather than 5, right? But again, we're experts in that field, and we see it very much from the creative standpoint, which sets us apart from other agencies, I feel. And I think that, what's important is that we're not just delivering those sort of sophisticated on-brand visuals and that helps the customer stand out from the crowd, but it's also pushing those boundaries, which I think to keep ahead of the curve. And we did have, we had a meeting recently with a large automotive brand, a luxury automotive brand, and who have invested heavily in AI teams within their business, and they gave us the best compliment by saying that we were market leaders and way ahead of the curve. So we're very humbled by that, but what's really key is that I think we've got amazing people in our organization who come from that creative background, so they're seeing it through the creative lens, from a creative frame of reference, to allow us to then deliver those sort of impactful campaigns and that impactful imagery or videography, for example. So we've got a very, very talented team who know how to manage and direct the prompts that are required. And and for full transparency, it's not just about putting prompts into a machine. It's also about those retouching skills we might have. So, like, for example, we did a recent campaign for a luxury luxury goods brand, and for full transparency, yes, the majority of it was, but there was an element of post-production, and so there's retouching involved, or there was some animation involved as well, that the AI couldn't produce, or it wasn't quite the right style. So I think that's where we are setting ourselves apart. Is that we are saying we have a team, and we produce 90%, 80 to 90% of the content in AI, because we've got the right tools, the right skill set, the right creative nous and prompting to allow us to do that. But at the same time, we rely on a huge creative team that we have in London and in Poland. Our main creative hub is in Poland, and we've got some very talented people who help us with the post-production, for example. And that could be animation, that could be retouching, and that sort of stuff. So does that answer the question?
It does. It's actually absolutely love what I'm hearing, because what I'm hearing is you've got loads of experience as a company in creating content in the first place, right? So now you're just using AI, but not to just put the prompt all down, send it to customer, because a big change comes with that post-production, final touches, really make it 10 times better by spending that last 10% of what you typically would take you to create that video. So it's still that designer and actually editor and post-production touch, and you're just utilizing that AI to take that bulk of difficult work to make it probably cheaper, much faster, right, than a shoot somewhere in Italy, right, for a fashion brand. You can do that from the office. So I completely get this. And, my first thought was, because obviously you started AI a few years ago, especially for video production. Now it's a big talk, right? The Google released their own engine. I think Midjourney is there with their own engine as well now, publicly available. So those agencies are appearing left and right, but they don't have the experience that you have, right? They don't know how to talk, align with the customer, align that with the goals, really spend some quality time in post-production to make it much, much, much better, but equally cost efficient to the client. And speed matters a lot now, right?
That is, Pete, you've hit the nail on the head. I think that, first of all, let me just cover that off. I think number one is that there is a lot of AI content creation companies out there, right? They are, and anyone can put in a prompt into ChatGPT or whatever system you're using, right? But I think the key differentiator between us and other AI content creation companies is that we have this plethora of experience across 40 years. And I think that, and it all centers around that whole heritage in sort of, art direction and photography and styling and post-production. And, we know how to craft that experience. And I think that we're used to delivering that sort of, that high impact visual that really resonates with the end user. And I think that that's where we set ourselves apart, that we always see it from that frame of reference. And again, by the way, this all comes down to the client brief. How good is the client brief, and how much, what are they giving us? And, and spending the time to really unpick that and get into the minutiae of that brief, and spending time to really unravel it, and spending time to understand it. And then you move into the sort of concept and phase, and then moving into the creation. And I think that, we take the time to refine that with the customer so that it really does reflect the brand that we are helping to represent, because we're a partner and we're helping to represent that brand. But I also think it comes down to things like, storytelling, the narrative that we want to portray. And I think that, going back to your point about time efficiency and cost efficiency. And I love that none of that was engineered, by the way. I think that's worth saying for the record, that I think that you're right. I think we can demonstrate, and we have demonstrated on literally the last three campaigns we've done, is that we have demonstrated between 75 and 85% cost saving. And I think that's what's key for customers. We're in tough times. It is tough at the moment. Not want to get political, but when it's tough, what gets cut, and it's a lot of the time the marketing budget, or a lot of marketing heads are asked to streamline or look at different ways of delivering. And I was speaking to one business owner recently, and he very much said exactly the same. Like, he wants to stay ahead of the game. He wants his team to embrace the AI. And I think that's what it's about, right? By the way, it's not about replacing people. It's about embracing the tech that is going to help to support the process. And I think that's what's key, is that at no point are we saying this is going to replace a creative. What we're saying is that it can facilitate and help support that process to deliver a better result, so it frees you up to do more and maybe repurpose some of that budget. And I think that's what's key. So there is definitely cost savings, and there is definitely time savings. And an example of that would be we did a campaign that was very much centered around sport, and it was all about sort of sports and location shoots. And, if we would have done that traditionally, when you look at it, hiring venues like sporting stadiums or guts to show basketball, whatever it might be, and the actors and the casting and the makeup artists and all that sort of stuff. We did that whole project in AI, and it would have cost 4 times as much, right? So it's one of those where if you did it the traditional way, I think that there's a big argument to say there's huge cost savings. And I think that's really important, because SMEs, they don't have huge budgets. We work with lots of SMEs, right? Yes, we work with big brands, and we've got lots of big brands on our website. We work with the likes of, Amazon and Sage and, Brother, for example, and we work with Google. We work with lots of big companies, right? But we also work with lots of small companies and lots of SMEs who do not have the budget. And, there are really quick wins on SMEs and being able to utilize budget and maximize budget, right? Maximizing that budget to get you as many assets in line with your brand guidelines or your marketing strategy or your go-to-market strategy, to build those assets, either static or from a short form or long form video. And I think there's a huge opportunity for businesses to leverage AI content generation that naturally through Rhapsody, right? Of course, I'm going to say that, but there's a huge opportunity.
Absolutely, spot on. It's actually aligned how I see AI. A lot of people have it wrong. They think they can put a prompt and it's done for them, and they say like, look, it doesn't sound human, doesn't look human. But how about you use it as your best employee assistant, right? And you can have it very quick, and 80% is done much quicker, much cheaper, right? And that's how you utilize it. And I'm a digital marketer, and use case, for example, you shot Facebook ad, very good, fashion brand, perfect. They probably need to be on social media, need to have a fashion brand. And then there is a new strategist that says, hey, we need to have loads of variants of this ad with different first 3 seconds to see, right, which one's going to perform better. Now, reshooting some other openings to this ad in the same location with the same actors 5 years ago, absolutely extremely difficult to pull off, just to record essentially another 30 seconds of usable content later. But AI now is going to sure, next week we'll have already another 3 seconds openers for and new edits, right? Or for example, how it allows the creativity, a fashion brand, let's say again, and we want to shoot it in Milan, London, New York, right? So do you take the same few actors and models and move them from place to place, right? Or do you use AI and make it, sure, no problem?
Again, right? I love the observation and the question. I think that so we've worked with several fashion brands, and a very prestigious fashion brand in the UK, where we have demonstrated that we can take apparel, we can take suits or any type of apparel, and we can place it on a model, a real life model, or we can place it on an AI model. So we can actually create real life models in AI, and we can either take the reference image, which is from the customer's website, for example, or ideally we'd want a high resolution image. But a lot, there have been times where customers haven't given us that. So, but what we demonstrate is that that our standards never fall. And I think that we're always delivering a high standard. And again, I think that just ties back into the whole, because we come from that background, that creative, retouching background. I think that we've got a really keen eye on making sure we're delivering high quality work all the time. So we can take a low res image from a website, which we have done, and we can deliver an AI generated scenario of an AI model wearing the apparel that's from the website in different colors, if need be, in different settings. So it could be in New York, it could be in Seattle, it could be in Milan, it could be in London. And that is where our sort of, that speed and that flexibility, allowing that workflow to take place as well, that we can cut down those sort of heavy logistics, that physical shoot, that, delivering, multiple creative different options at speed. Right. And I think that's, again, going back to your point, I think that's so key, because when budgets are being restricted and squeezed so much, we can say, well, hang on, we can do it at a quarter of the cost. Yeah. Just for one location. We can produce across 20 locations at a quarter of the cost of you producing one location. And I think I'm being generous in that statement as well, by the way, because it's probably a lot less than that. And I think that, I think it's all about that agility to sort of pivot and just, make sure that you're refining those concepts. And by the way, it doesn't always go right first time, right? So again, that's why we believe, and we are the experts in what we do, because we know how to prompt properly, and we know what works well and what doesn't. But very much always in line with the brand, right? We've always got to have those. There's always rounds of edits. There's always rounds of edits and a little bit of direction from the customer, which we embrace. So yeah, but I think there's speed and flexibility, cost effectiveness, and I think going back to what I was just saying, we can definitely save time and money in our process, which we've just.
Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely see this as a marketer, and I can just imagine a situation. There is a content for social media ad, right? That needs to change very quickly. And the customer would say, look, we shot it with that pink dress, but actually we found that the green one is selling. Can we do it? It's like, yeah, sure. Tomorrow, any good? We'll just remake it. We put it on the model, that green one, if that's what it is. Previously, sure. November, right?
Pete, you're right, because it's such a great observation, because I'm working with, and it's great, that there's clear synergies between us in sense of marketing, right? But I think what's really interesting, and it came up the other day when I was speaking to one of my clients who's a big tech company, and, I'm talking with their sort of Eastern European team, but we also work with their UK team as well. And, they're completely different markets. So the tonality, the creative concepts, the settings, the visuals and the messaging is different. And I think that's where AI content generation can really, really help, because we can be very specific in a very short space of time and deliver that very quickly and change it. And going back to your comment a minute ago around, that sort of, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like limitless creativity, whether, that's sort of, you want something, I don't know, in New York, or you want it in Milan, or you want it somewhere in a different, it could be, in Dubai, for example. We can produce that literally in minutes, right? So, and I think that's the beauty of this exciting period when it comes to AI content creation.
Yeah, so many we could probably discuss for the rest of this episode. Really, there's use cases. It excites me. We use a lot of AI for everything, right? And we're selling a lot of AI to companies and say, hey, you should be using this. It's always just the reason to finding them the use case that they thought it's complicated, annoying, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, a lot of money and team members. And then it's just proving to them, look, I will do it the same for you tomorrow. It will be 70% done, right? Obviously, the refinement may take another longer time. This is fascinating. Let's talk about how you acquire those new clients, how you find them in the first place. How do you educate them and convince them that Gen AI is the way forward, and to start, sales cycle with you? What's been working for you recently? I take it that AI is only couple of years old at best when you started really, really pushing this. What's been working? Any specific channel?
I think, Pete, that's a really, really good question. I think, first of all, we have a really passionate and focused marketing team. And I think that one area that we are investing in is around getting in front of people and getting in front of the right people. And inviting them to events. So one of the things we're doing through August and September is we have a road show going on from ETAL Boston and in Berlin and in London. So again, anyone who watches this who's interested, please reach out to us and we'll invite you along. But we're hosting a seminar around AI content gen and workflows, and trying to educate people, because again, I think there is an element of fear that people think, we alluded to it earlier on in our discussion, that people think that it's there to remove people from their roles, and it's really not. It's there to complement and to help support and drive efficiency, so you are freed up to deliver more for the business, right? It's a tool. We're doing a lot on social media, so naturally we've got LinkedIn, and we're on LinkedIn and Instagram, and we're doing lots of stuff and posts on Instagram, and we're finding that is attracting interest and inquiries. And alongside that, your traditional sort of means of, any sales person, and I know you've been doing it for a long time as well, Pete. It's very much around sort of outreach programs, outreach strategies, making sure you're understanding the right decision makers and the right sectors to go after, where you're going to be able to get the most traction. But we are finding that when we talk to customers around AI content gen and the benefits, like we've talked about in today's discussion, I think that that's half the battle. In the sense of there is interest, and naturally there is interest. The decision makers that we're talking to, they're leaders in their business. They're paid to make strategic decisions, and they're there to help drive innovation within their organizations. So I think that for us, it's very much around, that outreach program. And part of that is naturally outreaching from a cold call, or it could be an event, for example, or a networking event, through to marketing and making sure we're getting the right messaging out. But we have a mix of different strategies and ways of engaging with customers, from e-marketing to picking up the phone and trying to speak to people. Does that answer the question, Pete?
It does. Yeah. You're very active, obviously very good with content, right? And I did see your presence before.
Yeah.
And
Sorry,
you
Pete,
keep pushing.
one more thing on that, Pete. So
Sure.
one more thing. And I think what's key here is we don't approach it in that sort of that stereotypical double glazing salesperson, right? Where the way we look at it is we try to understand the customer pain point, right? So yes, we're talking about AI today, but as a holistic agency, we're very much around, we want to help our customers and our future customers, and we very much approach it in, where are you struggling? And if AI content gen or workflows will help them take away that pain point, then naturally we would always suggest that. But I think it all starts down to understanding the problem first. So very much consultative, understanding where you're struggling. And that could be, for example, I was on a call the other day. They were struggling with their SEO strategy, and part of that was linked to as well their website. We build websites, we do web dev, we do UX, we do UI. So naturally, I'm not the expert in that field. I put those people together, and lo and behold, we're working with them. So I think that's key, is listening to the customer and listening to what they really need, rather than trying to sell something that they don't really need. I think that's key.
Yeah, and that shows the experience you've had as a company for a few decades, right? That's the starting point. Yes, your delivery mechanism is maybe a little bit different now than it was 5 years ago, but you've got all the experience of thousands of campaigns, right? What performed, how the world is changing, the importance of TikTok now and how those creators should look like there. So you got decades of experience in this changing market of advertising, fantastic delivery that actually saves money. Now, I like your approach, the education-based approach, digital education through seminars, but also events, because it's all about educating prospects, building relationship with them, right? The world when you can just cold call someone's like, hey, I do this for companies like yours. Can we jump on a discovery? Are gone, right? There is such a big volume of people calling, emailing, messages, LinkedIn messages. Why that doesn't work anymore? It still works, but needs to be through building relationships, really educating prospects, and especially in something like AI, it's a trap. We know a bit too much about this, and we think it's actually common knowledge. And then we find that there are objections, right? People are scared that they're going to lose their job the second they're going to implement this, right? So that's probably the biggest one. And two, obviously, we think as humans, we so much better. Computer cannot be remotely as good.
Yeah.
And it's us, nicely proving those people wrong, right?
100%. And I think, Pete, just circling back to something I said at the beginning, I think where we are very fortunate is that our CEO has really believes in this vision, and we're really pushing it, and we're very passionate about it. but we've also invested in it, right? So, going back 2 years, yes, we've invested in our Rhapsody Labs team, who are completely dedicated to developing those tools and helping support our strategic vision. But also, we hired at the beginning of the year our VP of AI, Alexander Willerworth. He's our VP. So again, he's the one who's going to be hosting a lot of those seminars. I'm involved in them as well. I'm very much aligned with his vision and his sort of strategic vision on how we develop our AI strategy. But again, I think that there's a real appetite and investment from the organization, and I think that's I would say probably the real key differentiator for us is that we are supported by our board and by the Wall Street Group, and I think that's really important, because if you're not, you're just trying to push water uphill, aren't you? And then
That's right.
you're fighting a losing battle. So I think it's been embraced. The AI journey has been embraced by the organization, and we're just all very passionate about it because we know it's working, and we've got plenty of case studies and plenty of proof of concepts. So yeah, if anyone watching this wants to understand more, then they just need to reach out to us, and we can show them what we're up to in a bit more detail.
Absolutely. That's why I wanted to ask you. Obviously, you're inviting people to the events. I hope we can leave the link here when Ashley summarizes way on your closest events, right? But people, after listening here, would probably want to find out some case studies, maybe examples of those of content, right? What is possible right now? Because just because they've looked maybe end of last year and what it is now, they might look completely
It's night and
different.
day. It's night and day. It's
Exactly.
changed so much. And just on that, by the way, we're an international business, right? So we have people in the States, we have people in Germany, in Poland, in the UK. So we're an international business. So, if anybody who reaches out would like to speak to somebody locally, then we've got that presence as well.
Amazing. And for the easiest, click below here under this podcast, where will be the best place to go and find out a little bit more about what Gen AI can do now in video production.
The best place is always going to be rhapsodymedia.com, which is our web address. I'm on the website, so you can just press talk to me, or Alexander. You can ask to speak to us, and we're more than happy to arrange a meeting. So we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, and we will be launching our YouTube channel at the end of this month.
Oh, amazing!
Yes. By the way, I'm recording part of it next Friday. So yeah,
super cool.
We'll
update the link once it's posted, obviously, as well.
Thank you.
Here. But Chad, thank you very much for this, for sharing and actually exploring and explaining the possibilities and use cases, the real life scenarios why is it better. Everyone knows that most likely is going to save the cost, but explaining a little bit more about that flexibility as well, right? About, okay, we wanted to change this. Now, we don't have to organize the same people, fly to the same location, reshoot the 2 minutes that we wanted to change, right? And now it can be done literally, your question to your customers, like, by today or tomorrow is fine, or a couple of days, right? That is the future. And I like what I'm hearing about. You haven't started last November, like loads of those new agencies. As a company, you've started a few decades ago. So you've got good understanding of those changes. I like your CEO's vision and how the whole company is aligned about this, right? About how AI is going to change everything.
Yeah.
And it's still a lot human touch needed, right? And the refinement. And that's what your experience allows you to.
Pete, the one thing I would say is that anybody who's watching this, or anyone who is thinking of reaching out, number one, don't be scared of it, right? We've got to embrace it, but test us. Come get in touch. Give us a proof of concept, or give us a small project, right? That's how we've started with a lot of the companies we're working with. Come and talk to us. Give us test us. Try and push the boundaries. And I guarantee we'll deliver. Guarantee we'll deliver.
I'm 100% sure you will, because I know the power of this. And now after the conversation with you, I can hear how experienced you are in content creation to start with, right? And you've got some amazing names to back up what you say and the case studies. Chad, listen, thank you very much for this conversation. Very insightful. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're one of them.